Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
All right, welcome into another late night edition of Hawk's Eye View. Back-to-back weeks, Drew and I working late nights here. Thank you to AKC Marketing, Revelton, Green Beret, Kyle Lehman for sponsoring us. We'll hear from them later. But Drew, how you feeling?
It's my fault, Andrew, for the late nights. I apologize. It turns out that I'm scheduled to go see Caitlin Clark play tomorrow night. And I say scheduled because it is the 40th and last game of the season. And it turns out that the Indiana Fever have nothing to play for. They are locked in to their seed in the WNBA playoffs.
Yeah.
And the Washington Mystics are still playing for the final playoff spot. So that being said, what do you think the line is in that game? Because there is a line. You can gamble on women's basketball these days.
I know you can. Mystics by 6.5.
Mystics by 3.5.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about like a 13-win team here, right? So like awful. Like there is no scenario where a 13-27 team should make the playoffs. I'm sorry.
You're not excited about watching Ariel Atkins, Brittany Sykes, Stephanie Dolson?
Well, Brittany Sykes was out Tuesday night. When they played, who did they play? It was another playoff team. Oh man, now you put me on.
Yeah, but
the Liberty. They played the Liberty. I'm sorry, they played the Liberty on Tuesday and got smoked.
Yeah, I can.
And Sykes didn't play.
Yeah.
So,
but that is this.
Anyway, so I don't plan on seeing her. Don't plan on seeing Caitlin Clark tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I also don't know as if Washington can make the playoffs. I mean, it will depend on what Atlanta does too.
Yeah,
I think Atlanta has to lose. I think Atlanta has to lose and Washington has to win. And then I think Washington
isn't Chicago
over Atlanta
Chicago's
somehow.
Still in there too. This guy's still in there too.
Chicago's still in. The Sky's in there. I don't know what the tiebreaker scenario is. If Atlanta loses, Washington wins, and Chicago wins, they're all tied with the same record, and I don't know what the three-way tiebreaker is. They would all be 14 and 26. I do not know the tiebreaker rules for the last spot for the WNBA playoffs.
All of that to say that I'm not seeing Caitlin Clark tomorrow.
Yikes.
Probably.
All right. Well, yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Who knows? She might. Maybe they'll do the thing where they play her for like the first quarter and then take her out.
I don't know. That would be a huge bummer, right, Andrew? Because this is the second game that the Fever have come out and played Washington, where they upgraded the arena from their normal entertainment sports arena that holds like 2,000 people to the big Capital One 20,000 seat capacity arena in downtown DC, right? So
Right.
would be a massive disappointment, a lot of upset folks, regardless of who they're rooting for. They all know who they came to see, and to not see her, it will be. I can't say civil unrest is a little extreme, especially where I'm at, right? But
Yeah.
there
I
will
could
be
see
discontent.
that.
There will
Yeah,
be
I would
discontent
say, yeah, there will be some refunds asked for.
for sure. For
Um,
sure.
if she doesn't play, but yeah, that would be a little bit disappointing. All right, we can get into it. Maybe we can talk a little bit of Troy since we didn't do post game. I don't know what you really take away from that other than Caleb Johnson is the man. Caleb Johnson is the nation's leader in rushing yards. He's pretty high up there in touchdowns, although I don't think he's leading in touchdowns, but
No, the Boise
he
State
is
guy
having
is by a
himself
mile.
a start.
The Boise State guy
Yeah,
already has
Ashton
11.
Genty is. Yeah, I don't think Caleb Johnson's catching Ashton Genty for the rushing touchdowns probably this season, just given the level of competition that Caleb's going to face.
Did Boise State play last weekend? Did he? What was his
No, they
stat
had the
line?
week off. They had the
Okay,
week off.
so he's had 11 rushing touchdowns in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but Caleb's done his in 2.5 games. If you'll remember, he was suspended for the first half of that Illinois State game.
Also true. So
So
give him another 1.5.
yeah. So I just kind of wanted to talk about Caleb Johnson because his start to the year, I think I saw a tweet from Sean Bach over at Hawkeye Insider comparing it to Sean Green's non-conference start in 2008, and Caleb Johnson's start is better than that. I'm not saying that Caleb Johnson is better than Sean Green. Don't hear me saying that. I'm just saying statistically, comparing the two in the non-conference, and Caleb doing it in 3 games compared to 4 games. Because remember, the conference schedule was 8 games and 4 non-conference games back then. So non-conference to non-conference, 2.5 games of Caleb Johnson, it has statistically been better than 4 games of Sean Green in the non-conference in 08. And we all know what Sean Green did in 08, winning the Doak Walker Award. So
with that being said, right, Sean Green did it by and large a better offensive line. I think that could be like unequivocally not debated. Right?
No, I'm not going to debate you on that one.
Gosh, what would that have been? Like Brian Bulaga?
Yep, that's a Brian Bulaga team.
Yep. Who else would have been there?
Maybe James Ferentz.
Yeah.
I don't know if James Ferentz was on that squad, but it seems like he probably would have been. I don't know if Yonda was on that team. No, Yonda might have been.
Yonda's pretty old, man. Yonda's
older. Yeah, he's 04.
I think he was drafted in 02,
range.
03. Yes, yeah. He was around forever for the Ravens, man. He's
pull it up.
Actually, speaking of Marshall Yonda, I saw his name up in the Ravens Wall of Fame this last Sunday because I watched my Raiders whoop that ass.
Here's the offensive lineman names that I'll give you: Bulaga, Rafi Eubanks.
Oh yeah,
Julian Vandervelde.
Yep.
Kyle Calloway, Andy Kemple, Seth Olson, Rob Bergerman. I think they rotated some of those guys in. Sure. So Bulaga, Eubanks, Vandervelde, those 3 were kind of mainstays. And then I think the other 2 spots were kind of fluid.
Sure.
So, but all of those guys were, as a unit, They were really good.
Yeah, 100%.
I just wanted to point that out because I think it speaks to the offensive line improvement for Iowa this year compared to last season. I think Caleb Johnson is running better. His vision is better. I think he's running through tackles. He's not going down on first contact. So I think there's a lot of improvement on his end, but I think the run blocking and then also the run scheme, I think that Tim Lester talked a lot about it in the preseason about how he wanted to really get that run game going, and he's done it by and large. I mean, I think that's the staple of the Iowa offense through 3 weeks. We're averaging just a shade under 250 rushing yards per game in 3 weeks. That's pretty good compared to where we were last year when we averaged 115 rushing yards per game.
I'll say this. Tim Lester's done a great job of adjusting to what the defense is giving him, right? So, like, we used to pound the ball inside the tackles with Brian Ferentz, even if it wasn't there. Like, half a yard. We're gonna pound you into submission was Brian Ferentz's mantra. We're eventually going to run over you, and we never did, right? Then they finally bounce it outside the tackles. My God, look at those holes. You can drive a Mack truck through those holes on the outside of the tackles, man. The tackles have been playing great run blocking schemes the last 2 games. Even Iowa State.
Yeah.
I mean, just so the run game adjustment is great. That they're like, okay, they're not giving us this. They're pinching down inside. You know, the nose tackle's doing their job. Can't get any push from the center position. Get the ball outside. Get them in space. And those holes, man, like, especially on the left side, holy shit. Like, let's go. I mean.
Oh, the toss play. When they run that little toss play, that I've seen that a lot being a Green Bay fan. That is 100% the Aaron Jones play. When Green Bay would run the toss play to Aaron Jones and Aaron Jones would go for a lot of yards with it or a touchdown, that is 100% what that play is. And it can go either direction. And yeah, Iowa runs that to perfection. And I've talked about the offensive line improvement, but the tight ends in run blocking, if you've looked at the Pro Football Focus grades, which I like to do every once in a while, the Pro Football Focus grades for both Lachey and Ostrenga and all the other tight ends in run blocking have been bad. Our tight ends are not run blocking well.
Oh,
and
I did not know that.
And that is supposed to be so the offense that we've instilled, the Shanahan, the LaFleur kind of hybrid in there. You kind of need your tight ends to block pretty well. And, but it's hard for those tight ends to learn the system. There's a lot on their plate. Sure. It's a lot different than what Iowa's done in the past. So, I'm looking forward to that getting better as the season goes on. So hopefully the offensive line stays consistent at the level where they're at right now. And then maybe the tight end run blocking will get better as the season progresses. The running game will be even more potent.
So I'll say this, Andrew, and things like run blocking, it takes a lot of leverage, right? A lot of positioning.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of makes me wonder, like, is Luke Lachey confident in his legs to achieve those positions and get the leverage needed in the running game, you know, post 10-month reconstructive knee surgery type deal? You know what I mean? Like, if he doesn't have the confidence in the leverage piece of that, because he's a smart football player. He can be in position, but it's all about leverage in the running game. And I'm not sure if he is confident. You know, he might be very well just fine athletically, physically fine, but in between the ears, if he's not confident, he's not selling out on plays that he normally would pre injury if he has a little reluctance in going full bore into the running piece of that. I don't know. I don't know if there's any.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about that, but I just thought I would point out that the tight end run blocking has not been good yet. And we still haven't gone under 200 yards rushing in any single game this year.
It only gets better then, is what you're saying?
I'm saying, no, I don't know if it'll necessarily get better because I don't think it's realistic for Iowa to average at least 200 rushing yards per game in the Big Ten Conference. I don't think that's realistic. Can this team keep it around 150? Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think somewhere in there is very realistic for this team as the season progresses, especially in conference play, probably somewhere in that 150 to 200 range. Just the offensive numbers, I guess I just wanted to talk about those a little bit through 3 games. If I told you that Iowa was 58th in points per game scored through 3 games, would you have taken that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Top 40 in rushing yardage totals.
I believe that. I don't know how we're not like top 20.
Yeah. Passing is where it gets a little bit, not so great, but better than last year. We are averaging 100 and give me 1 second here. 170 passing yards per game, I think. Right now, through 3 games, we average like
the 3 games that we've already played.
Like last year.
Isn't that more than passing yards the entire year?
Our passing efficiency. No, not the entire year. Last year we threw for like 1,200 yards.
We got a little lag going on, Andrew. FYI.
I am so sorry. I don't know what's going on with my lag here.
It's okay.
But yeah, I'm losing a little bit of connection on my end. No, it's not more than last year. We had like 1,200 passing yards all of last year. We're about halfway there through 3 games. And obviously the passing touchdowns, we have 4 of those. Where we're gonna pass last year's numbers, I guess, at this rate. In all aspects, we're gonna pass last year's number. We only went over 400 total yards of offense in 1 game last year. We had 402. Can you name the game where we had 402 yards of offense?
402
last season?
Yards of offense last season. Nebraska.
Rutgers.
Oh, shit.
The home game against Rutgers.
Should have known.
Yeah. That was it. So, the other thing is we're averaging 32 points per game and we only have 1 defensive/special teams touchdown.
So take the 6 points off. So we're really averaging like 29 points offensively per game.
30.
Yeah,
okay. Like 30. Just call it 30.
Call it 30.
And the offense is carrying all that, not like in years past where the defense and the special teams have contributed to that heavily. Yep. The offense is carrying those numbers. I don't know. So I guess I just wanted to bring up all these offensive numbers. I don't know if the offense obviously has room for improvement. I'm not saying any of that. I just think there's I don't think the hate that maybe the offense is getting, if they're getting any sort of hate from the Iowa fan base, is really as warranted, because I think before the season, any one of these numbers that I'm throwing out, even the passing numbers, which aren't so great, they're borderline top 100. I don't even think before the season you would have said, okay, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that from the Iowa offense because it's better than what we've seen.
If you take out the second half of the Iowa State game, we've played 5 good halves of offensive football.
I think so. Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, I mean, I think it's the circumstance and the result of the Cyhawk game that leaves a poor taste in our mouths as fans. But by and large, you look at the numbers, you look at the analytics, all that stuff. I don't see a lot of like per se hate by for Tim Lester, the results of the offense. I think if anything, what's transitioned into it a little bit about the defense regressing, the TJ Hall problem, Xavier Wampa, like he had a better game last Saturday. But the 2 burns with TJ Hall, I don't know if that's a zone coverage blow. And I kind of think it is. Because it looked like he depended on help over the top, and the problem with a 3 zone, we call it a 30 zebra back home. So you have the 2 corners and the deep safety, right? So the deep safety has to edge one way or another. But
yeah,
when the deep man is on the far side of the deal, and the guy that's cutting up or cutting away from the goalpost out is by himself, you got nobody behind you. So, I mean, great routes, I guess I would say, from Troy to get behind TJ Hall.
Devontae Ross.
If anything, what's that?
Devontae Ross specifically.
Didn't he score 3 tutties on us?
He scored all 3 touchdowns on us.
Yeah, I thought so.
We can talk about this, but you're right. On the one, TJ Hall definitely thought he was passing him off to Quinn Schulte. Something got mixed up there. Some sort of a mental thing on one of the Iowa State plays, the 75-yard touchdown too.
Was that TJ Hall too?
No, that was a Nwankpa
Wampa
issue. But again, mental error there.
And there's a difference between having an error as a safety and an error as a corner, right? Because the error as a safety is no one gets behind you, period. Like I don't care what third of the field that you have coverage in. No player should be behind you regardless. None. 0. Like that's it. Right?
Right.
So like to be able to cut the corner if you got to run a guy down on a deep route or some shit like that, like there's no excuse for a safety for anybody to get behind you regardless of coverage. There's just not, because you start with a 12, 13-yard head start. It should not happen ever.
Yeah. I guess what I'm getting at, and I'm glad you're bringing this up because I wanted to bring it up too, uncharacteristic big plays being given up. Outside of that, it's not like these teams are just gashing us. I probably would be more concerned if it was like them putting together drives kind of at will instead of hitting us with big plays. You know what I mean? Like I'd be more concerned if like teams were just doing things at will, imposing their will on the defense. And I don't really feel like what's gone on through 3 games is really that.
Iowa State second half, they found a lot of zone holes.
They hit the one big touchdown, and then they had to settle for field goals.
They still hit zone holes, man. They still get a lot of first downs.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think it was them really necessarily imposing their will. But that's fine.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I digress.
That's fair because we've been spoiled because we don't give up any of that shit the last 5 years, right? Like, we've been very spoiled.
Again, mental errors that I think are easily correctable, and I have a lot of confidence in Phil Parker to correct those kinds of things because you know that it's not sitting well with him or Kirk Ferentz at all. These guys, like those two, are just not going to allow that to happen all season. There's just absolutely no way.
Okay, so my question to you, Andrew, then is, what does that correction look like? Does that correction look like in personnel changes? Does that look more in scheme changes to set up the current roster in better positions to make better plays, or like a combination of the two? Like, because I don't know. Like,
I think so. If you remember last year, and I've heard quite a few Iowa radio people talk about this, but called my attention to it last year after the Penn State game. Joe Evans pulled the defensive line together in a players only meeting with just Joe Evans and all the other defensive linemen, and basically chewed them all out and said, we got to get our shit together. Quinn Schulte, Jermari Harris are going to have to do that for the defensive backfield, I think, probably this week before the Minnesota game, and say, we got to get it together. I don't know if it's really necessarily personnel changes, because we did see TJ Hall get pulled. We did see Xavier Wankpa get pulled. Phil and Kirk are not afraid to make personnel changes. Now, I think
except at the quarterback position.
Well, we can talk about that maybe after we hit a break here.
Sure.
But yeah, I think they're willing to make personnel changes, but at some point, I think it just has to come down to the guys on the field just ultimately making a decision that kind of crap is not going to happen anymore. I think it just comes down to your senior leaders saying, what's going on? We need to get it together. We can't be the weak point in this defense anymore. That's kind of an unacceptable thing. So I think it just comes down to that. I think it just comes down to people taking accountability and then, putting in the work that it takes to actually correct those things.
And listen, I can't fathom the pressure that it would take to play for a Phil Parker defense in this decade, right? Because you have to be the next one. You have to be the next Josh Jackson. You have to be the next Desmond King. You have to be the next name your All-American, right?
Cooper.
Like
Cooper DeJean. Yeah, even though there is no next Cooper DeJean or Riley Moss. Although Jermari Harris, man, I'm glad we're bringing up the defensive backfield. He has been outstanding. Yeah. We do not even worry about whoever Jermari Harris is covering. He had that pick six. I'm glad. I think he's got 2 interceptions so far this year. 1 pick six.
He does, and he read that pick six all day long. I mean,
yeah,
that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
2 picks, and I mean, I know that basically anytime they throw his way, that's a shutdown. Anything up.
That's a shutdown.
Yeah, he's shutting it down. He's shutting it down over there. Yep. So feel good about that. And then Deshaun Lee, I think, came in last week after TJ Hall had some struggles, and then I thought Deshaun Lee played pretty well. He did. I think that's the guy that we will see, because I know that Nestor was listed as the backup for TJ Hall initially, but I think now it might be Deshaun Lee.
I was going to say, did they keep TJ Hall in the starting?
TJ Hall is gonna start, but I don't think that leash is very long. Yeah. And it probably shouldn't be. I mean, if we're willing to bench Wankpa, we're willing to bench TJ Hall. I don't think the leash is very long, and I know that kind of is going to be a thing as the season progresses. So I don't know. I think Lee is probably going to emerge as the guy.
Sure.
And then maybe next year, TJ Hall and John Nestor will run things and they'll be just more ready for it. But who knows? So with that, one last quick note on the defense. I wanted to talk about a couple of guys. Brian Allen and Max Llewellyn. Those guys were some instant energy for that defensive line off of the bench. Brian Allen especially. I think we saw the glimpse of his kind of potential there. Ethan Herquette was really good too, but I feel a lot better about the edges after that.
My God, there was that one drive that Allen got the sack. Allen forced the false start, which everybody thought that it was offsides.
Yeah.
And then Llewellyn buried him on the next play.
Right. And
those are the series that we need against Troy, Andrew. Like that's what we needed to see like 4 times out of 5.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think those guys are good depth, and I feel good about the defensive line.
Couldn't agree more. That was great.
Yeah. So I think right now is a good time to take a little bit of a break and then come back.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. Whether you're buying, selling, or refinancing your home, or if it's simply time to renovate the one you're already living in, you need an experienced mortgage professional to help you analyze your financing options and to make sure the closing goes smoothly. And that's exactly what you get when you call Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. Kyle's experience and expertise, coupled with Wintrust's rates and programs, ensures you'll get the mortgage that's right for you. You may even qualify for down payment assistance. Before you reach out to a realtor, call Kyle and get pre-qualified, empowering you to start shopping for the home of your dreams. Call Kyle at 515-473-0546. Kyle Lehman, Wintrust Mortgage, 515-473-0546. In 2023, a crack Green Beret named Dan Douglas retired his military command and promptly escaped to a full-time career in real estate. Today, this man is wanted by home buyers and sellers who want to survive the process without spending a fortune. If you have a home to sell or want to buy one, maybe you can hire Dan Douglas at Green Beret Realty. You can find him at greenberetrealty.com. greenberetrealty.com.
All right, welcome back in. And Drew, what do you know about this year's edition of the Minnesota football team?
Nothing. They didn't look very good against North Carolina. They kind of pissed away that game, and kind of really their only marquee game of their non-con. I'm not impressed offensively, like at all. That's really all I know, man. Like they don't have a Mo Ibrahim, right?
Right.
I mean that guy was a stud.
They have Darius Taylor.
Yep.
Yeah, they have Darius Taylor, who's pretty good.
I don't know what I guess what has he done here in the non-con? I know that they've been talking a little bit about him.
Yeah, they haven't been able to really establish the run in the non-con, at least not to the level that we've seen in years past. You talked about Mo Ibrahim. They had Bucky Irving at one point before he went to Oregon. We've seen plenty of Minnesota running backs. And that's kind of what the identity has been for Minnesota through 3 games. I'm just taking a look here. They are averaging, I believe, a shade under 200 rushing yards per game as a team. Yeah. 130 rushing yards. Not a shade.
That's a
lot.
that's a whole game.
A lot. That's a whole game. So 130 rushing yards. Again, they played North Carolina in week 1. We saw kind of the struggles. Darius Taylor didn't play in that game in week 1.
That's right. I remember that.
So he has 200 yards in the last 2 weeks, essentially, because he has 188 yards in the last 2 weeks. He's averaging 7.5 carry, 3 touchdowns. So he's doing well. But they've played, I believe they played Nevada last week and Rhode Island, who not an FBS school there. And Nevada is considered to be bottom of the Mountain West. Probably a similar level to the Troy opponent that we played.
Sure.
Maybe worse. So that's kind of like Minnesota's offense. They have Max Brosmer. And what I've kind of been reading and picking up from Minnesota is that they might be more of a throw it to run it kind of a team. Get like some short, quick passing game going, and hopefully that will open up the running lanes. They're averaging about 220 passing yards per game, so it's not like they're lighting it up in the passing game exactly either through 3 games against the competition that we've talked about. They brought in Max Brosmer, who was an FCS All-American at New Hampshire. He's completing 68.8%. 600 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. So those are decent numbers.
Yeah, they are.
Not out of this world numbers necessarily, but decent numbers, I would say. Daniel Jackson is kind of their top wide receiver. They have Elijah Spencer too. So both of those guys are back from last year. And those are kind of their top 2. They use Taylor in the receiving game quite a bit as well now. But I think really the calling card of this Minnesota team is their defense. I think their defense is top 5 in a lot of categories. They have a really strong rushing defense, but they've had some tackling issues. Specifically in the North Carolina game, they had quite a few tackling issues against a team that wanted to kind of establish the run themselves. North Carolina wanted to do that and were able to do that. So I think this is going to be kind of a tough, gritty grinder of a game.
I have a question for you, Andrew, and it's on the offensive side of the ball for us, not necessarily Minnesota.
Okay.
Didn't Caleb Brown get his first catch of the season last week?
Yeah, he did.
What's going on there?
Well, I think it's kind of he's got to rebuild a little bit of the trust. The trust bank with Ferentz is a little bit low after the offseason. So I think that's kind of just coming back slowly. Another thing is that like Jacob Gill has just stepped up in a big way.
That's true.
Jacob Gill is our best wide receiver and didn't have the offseason issues that Caleb Brown had.
Is Seth Anderson number 2?
No, Seth Anderson hasn't even played yet.
What? How have I missed this?
Seth Anderson hasn't even played yet, Drew. He's been injured. He hasn't even played yet.
I'm leaving. That's it.
Reese Vanderzee has been our
and that was because of week 1.
Yeah. They've put a little like after that week 1, I think defenses have emphasized him a little bit. They've emphasized, be physical with him. He's a freshman, that kind of a thing. So he's going to have to fight his way through that a little bit. I think we'll see Caleb Brown get a little bit more involved this week. To just go back to your original question, he only played 7 snaps last week. I don't think that's an acceptable number for this week. I think his snap count needs to be in the 20 to 30s at the very least.
Is he listed as the number one? Like, I don't understand.
No. Yeah, the number one wide receivers
Gill?
listed are Gill and Vanderzee.
This is bizarre. So bizarre.
It is bizarre, but
Like, I mean, I get it because once he puts somebody in the doghouse, I mean, we see it in the running back room all the time. I mean, shit, Caleb Johnson didn't. He was in the doghouse early last year, right?
yeah, and
until
was never healthy, never fully healthy last year. I don't think.
That's also true. I don't know, man. Like the wide receiver room to me is still kind of a concern. Like Gill has been great, but like Caleb Brown is not the guy that we thought we were getting. Just like I don't think Cade McNamara is the guy that we thought we were getting.
I would say Cade McNamara is pretty close to what we thought we were getting. I don't think we thought we were getting an all-world guy that was going to throw for 300 yards a game. If that was your expectation for Cade McNamara, I don't think that's it. What we're getting is a guy who completes a lot of his passes, 64%, which would be the highest.
I was going to say, what's the percentage? I need to know. 64?
64%, which would be the highest in a single season if he keeps up at that pace since Ricky Stanzi's 2010.
How many sacks has he taken?
So I don't know how many sacks he's taken. I haven't looked at that one right yet, but he's taken a few. That's inevitable. That's going to happen, right, during the course of a season. So I think you're getting a guy who maybe isn't making the big plays with his arm, but he is completing a high percentage and moving the chains, moving the ball, that kind of a thing. Yeah. So another real interesting thing that happened on this last Saturday was Brendan Sullivan coming in to run the red zone offense.
That was the best part of Saturday by far.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved it. And it shows a willingness to try something new at the quarterback position in the Kirk Ferentz era. That's not something that I feel like we would have seen.
His athleticism in the red zone is a necessity.
I mean, what I mean is, I think that's a Tim Lester decision, and I think Kirk let him make it. That is not something that is that I would expect from Kirk Ferentz.
Oh no, not at all.
No. To me, that's just another indicator that the offense is fully Tim Lester's show, like we said in the offseason and have been saying all along. Like, it's fully Tim Lester's show because Kirk Ferentz would never have signed off on something like that prior to the season. And like you said, what it resulted in, the 2 times we got into the red zone, 2 touchdowns. The one time was handing the ball off to Caleb Johnson, but the defense had to seriously consider, is Brendan Sullivan going to run? Also on the other play, he could have run it in, but he chose
I thought he was going to run it in, and I wanted him to.
I wanted him to as well, but he flipped it ahead to Stranga. It was an unselfish move. That's cool.
Yeah.
But again, the threat of the run was a big element there in the red zone.
Well, beautiful. Yeah, it was beautiful.
And I hope that continues in the Minnesota game and every game going forward. Every time we get into the red zone, seeing Brendan Sullivan, because again, the element of the run, threat of the run, just opens up another possibility. And yeah, you probably in the red zone, especially inside the 5-yard line, should probably give the ball to Caleb Johnson. Because he's probably going to find his way into the end zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I think you're going to find a seam or two if you keep Brendan Sullivan in the pocket in the red zone a time or two, right. Because of the threat of the run. Mm-hmm. Don't even bootleg. Don't even do a naked anything. Just straight up back pocket 3-step drop to a seam, to a Stranga, to Luche. Like, I think that's going to be open too.
Yeah, and if you're a defense, you have to probably spy Brendan Sullivan with someone on your defense, or
That's what
he's
I'm
just
saying.
yeah, or he's just gonna find a lane. And when you take someone out of coverage or out of kind of the run stopping thing, I think that gives the offense an advantage.
100%.
So again, it just opens up a lot of possibilities. So I'm curious if you think we'll see Sullivan more than outside of the situations. What would the scenario have to be for them to play Sullivan more than just the red zone scenario that we've seen so far?
Plus territory fourth downs.
Oh, you mean like fourth and short?
Like 4th and 2 on their 40,
Yeah,
or where the analytics say go for it in
yeah.
a less than 3 type scenario.
Okay.
I think so. I don't see full drives. I don't see full playbook, I guess.
Yeah.
But I see short yardage to go. What do you want to call it? High leverage positions where a running quarterback is going to get you a first down more times than not, 3 or less. So I think you could see like an analytical play, like 4th and 3 on the 40 or something.
Okay. How about the 2-minute offense? Because
man, we haven't seen him sling it yet. Not for the
right.
Iowa offense, right? So to be able to hit the outs, hit time management, he hasn't had to deal with time management yet because the
Right.
goal to go situations, they've been wide open. Time not a factor. I don't know if you want to put that pressure on him yet in
Sure.
a 2-minute drill. I think I still would give a nod to Cade in that scenario because he's been there. But like I guess I'm not opposed to it. We just need to see it.
Well, the reason why I asked was the end of the first half against Troy. Kirk choosing and saying in the post game that it was his choice to not do anything there with timeouts, and
Oh, that fucking pissed me off.
it made me mad too.
You're at the 40-yard line with 2 timeouts. What do we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Brendan Sullivan, if you'll remember, all the way back on Kids Day, Brendan Sullivan 2-minute drill was really good on Kids Day. It's not the same as a game,
Sure,
but I mean, we heard reports of this in practice that Brendan Sullivan was running a good 2-minute drill. So that's kind of why I asked you about the 2-minute drill. If you thought maybe it was like a
so listen, is Kirk Ferentz telling us that it looked good in practice, or is David Eichel or Chad Leistikow or
it's
Eichel telling us
it's Eichel and Leistikow, Doctorman, those three.
Okay. So that changes my whole thought on it, right? Because like they are objective. We know what Kirk Ferentz says about how the guys practice. Oh, yeah, practice well. Well, so did Spencer Petras, for 3 fucking years. So did Deacon Hill for a year. Like, so like saying that the beat writers said that, okay, maybe. I guess now's the time. I think the Minnesota game, I think it's very winnable. If I were to throw a concern level out there, 1 to 10, maybe a 3, just because it's a rivalry game. I think Iowa is the better roster. I think Iowa has the better coach. I think Iowa has the better quarterback, and Iowa has the best player on the field in Caleb Johnson. And that's objective to me.
Yeah. And we have the best player on the field when the Iowa offense is on the field and when the Iowa defense is on the field.
So who's the best player on the Iowa? I was going to say who the best player on the Iowa defense is. Harris?
Jay Higgins.
Oh,
Jay Higgins.
Okay.
I mean, Kirk Ferentz is throwing out Ray Lewis comps. So I think Jay Higgins is the best defensive player we got.
I'm not going to argue against that. That's for sure.
Yeah. So there will be some rain too in the forecast. So a night game, 6:30 night on NBC. If we didn't already mention that.
No, we didn't. That's good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So we're in the NBC night slot for. Were we in the NBC night slot last year, or were we just in the Peacock night slot?
I think we were in the Peacock Friday night, weren't we?
I know that we played like Michigan State on Peacock last year at home.
Wasn't it a Friday night game?
That might have been a Friday night.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I don't think we've been on the NBC.
We haven't been on NBC National, no.
No. So this is our first time on NBC National in I think we probably played a game on NBC back in the 80s, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I'm sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
I know we did on CBS. I bet
the boys at WHO TV 13 are thrilled that Iowa's on national TV.
Yeah.
Prime time.
Yeah. That's cool. It's cool to be on prime time in NBC. So, and there's not, if you look at the rest of the college football schedule, there's not a lot going on. Even in the prime time, I think we are up against Tennessee, Oklahoma.
Yep.
But other than that, I mean,
I also think Tennessee is going to whoop that ass.
Right. Which I fully expect that to not be a competitive game. So the Iowa game, I fully expect to be a little bit more competitive. I think I just think this is going to be a little bit of a slugfest.
You have a concern level?
I don't know, just a rivalry game against Minnesota. They won it last year. I know what things have said, but we saw kind of that last three quarters against Iowa State. I think the Minnesota defense, I have to give them a lot of respect. I think what they've done on defense is pretty good. I think Iowa offense does just enough with like the ground game and establishing the run, probably. I think that's the difference here. And then it really just comes down to like those mental mistakes and maybe special teams, because we didn't even talk about special teams yet. But that punt return we gave up was pretty much the result of a punt with no hang time.
That was terrible.
Which is going to happen when you're playing a true freshman punter who has never punted in American football. I don't care if he's not 18.
I mean, he punted that son of a bitch 60 yards though.
Yeah, but the problem is that it went straight with no hang time.
The problem is it was ran back for 80.
Yeah, if he had punted it 45 yards with 2 to 3 extra seconds of hang time, then we don't give up a punt return touchdown.
That's a good point.
Most likely. So
Stevens was perfect last week, right?
Stevens is good. He looks returned to form. I'm not concerned about the place kicking game at all. I'm a little bit concerned about the punting game, the punt coverage, the defensive backfield mistakes that we've seen. I don't necessarily know if Minnesota is the team to take advantage. I think they have capable wide receivers. I think they will try to take advantage. I just don't know if they're built that way to do that and take advantage of that. So I think they would much rather try to get the ground game going with Taylor and rely on that. And I think Iowa's the same way. So because of that, I think this is going to be something like a 17-13 Iowa victory.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Put it on the board. It's 17-13. And Minnesota's going to score like some garbage time touchdown to make it the 13. Have to kick an onside kick. Don't get it. We win. Like, it's not as close as the score indicates type deal.
Another thing when I was doing a little bit of research for this game, something that I didn't realize, it's just how much Iowa's dominated this series in the last 2 decades. 18 of the last 23, Iowa.
Holy shit.
We have only lost.
And don't we still trail the overall series though?
No, it depends on if you go back to before the trophy was invented or not. What we're behind in the all-time
series, right?
1890s going forward.
Yep.
Apparently, Minnesota football was just great from 1891 to 1916. It was just
I know we were terrible in the 1900s. I know that.
We were so bad in the 1900s.
Yeah.
I've watched the tape. No, I actually haven't watched the tape. I have no clue.
Was there tape?
No, there's literally no tape. And at some point, the YouTube clips of 2022 and 2023 will all be destroyed, and we'll never know about that anymore either. So it's fine. But we hold a 1-game lead since the trophy was born.
When was the trophy born? In 70?
1931, I thought.
Holy shit. Okay.
We're like 44 and 43
wow.
since the trophy. So it's that close, but 18 of the last 23. So we were way behind, and we've caught way up by dominating the last 2 decades.
Well, thank you, Kirk Ferentz. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Kirk. Hope to make another great memory against Minnesota. So, yeah, last year we lost 12-10. I think we can. I feel good about this Iowa team putting up 17 points against Minnesota. As good as their defense is, I feel like they can do it. I think our offense has the capability to score 17 points.
That's an improvement.
It's just that I think the weather and just what Fleck wants to do with establishing the ground game is just going to limit the possessions and drive the score down. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a function of both teams showing futility on offense. I think it's going to be more about these are actually 2 high-level defenses, and both coaches want to impose their will on the ground. And which team can do that better. I think so far that's Iowa, and I think that will be Iowa again on Saturday night.
I just think Castro and Higgins are going to be the cannonballs into the boat that they are, say, rowing in the water, in the rain. I think defense comes through at the end.
Yeah. Another thing that I'll say is this is absolutely must win.
Oh, 100%.
I don't want to be dramatic about an early season game, and I typically wouldn't be, but it's another rivalry game. You go into a bye week, and out of the bye week, you play at Ohio State. You and I both, you can't say never because literally anything can happen. We've seen anything happen in the college football world. See, there's always that, the Dumb and Dumber, you're saying there's a chance kind of thing.
I mean, we took him to the woodshed
in Iowa City, yeah. But I don't even know the last time we won in Columbus. 04? 04, I think we won in Columbus.
No, I think so.
I think that's the last time we won in Columbus. So it's been
we should have won with
Vandenberg.
We should have won that game.
Yep. But we didn't.
but the statistics say that.
And even that was 14 years ago.
Oh, my God. That's terrible.
Yeah. So we haven't won in Columbus in 20 years. Basically, what I'm saying is lose this game and you are starting out 0-2 in the Big Ten, 2-3. That is not at all where you want to be with this team. With so many guys coming back and feeling as good as you did preseason, that pretty much a loss means 2-3.
Pretty much a loss is a 7-5 at best season.
Yeah, 8-4, 7-5, 8-4, that kind of thing. So,
because I'm telling you, Nebraska's going to bring it, man. Like I can't wait. Like I don't want to fast forward 2 months, but I do because I want to see this Iowa-Nebraska game.
I want to see 2 9-2 teams going at it in Iowa City. I want
for a potential college football playoff.
For a potential college football playoff, because I think if 9-2 Nebraska storms in, they're probably top 12 at the time.
So why would you say that though? Because Nebraska's undefeated. So who does Nebraska lose to for those 2 games?
Yeah. Give me a
Because
second.
I don't see a scenario where Nebraska's top 12 if they're a 2-loss team.
Okay. Maybe they're 9-1 or 10, maybe
10
a
and
10
1.
and 1
10 and 1. 10 and 1 Nebraska.
Yeah, it's possible. I think they have a tricky game against Illinois this week, who has looked good and has ranked themselves.
I think they play Indiana as well, actually.
They play Indiana the week before they play Ohio State. October 19th, they play Indiana, but they get a bye to prepare for Indiana.
And everybody's up on Indiana. Have you seen any Indiana football, Andrew? Because like a lot of people are talking like they might be a dark horse. Like
they look good, but let's consider
like Penix good.
No. So their 3 opponents are Florida International, Western Illinois, who is like a non-major. They had to leave the Missouri Valley because they would get stomped in the Missouri Valley. Terrible. Just terrible. They're pulling people out of the stands to play football.
Western Illinois. We've lost to them in basketball before, matter of fact. But yes.
Yeah. But they crushed UCLA, who's completely overmatched in every way when it comes to coaching and talent and everything.
UCLA was an 8-win team last year, though.
Yeah, but they lost a lot, and Chip Kelly is no longer there.
That's true.
So we won't really probably know anything about Indiana. They do play a home game against Maryland. I think that will be maybe a decent test for Indiana. Who knows? Certainly better than any team they played or will play before that point.
Okay, all right.
But just to get back to Nebraska and your original question of who are their 2 losses to, well, one, they have to go to Ohio State. So
one.
Yeah, I think that's probably at least one there. And they also have to go to USC in November, and USC looks pretty decent as well. I think Miller Moss is really good. So there's a little bit of Cornhusker hype. I think they got to beat this Illinois team for me to really consider them
I think if they're 10 and 1, Andrew, I think they are top 12 in your scenario. If because they beat a top 20 UCLA or USC team in the Rose Bowl.
UCLA is number 11, or USC is number 11 right now.
Okay.
I don't know what USC schedules.
They won't be when they play Nebraska.
No, probably not, because I think they have to play both Ohio State and Oregon before they play Nebraska. No, they play Penn. No, they play Penn State.
No, even better.
USC schedule, they go to Michigan this week, which I think USC is going to win that. I don't know why Michigan's still ranked, to be honest.
I still feel like USC kind of got the shaft on this schedule, but that's just me.
Yeah, they have to go to Minnesota. They play Penn State at home, to Maryland, Rutgers, at Washington. I mean, I don't know. If they can get past that Penn State game, USC might be undefeated when they play Nebraska in November.
So then they play Nebraska and Ohio State in November?
USC plays Nebraska at home at UCLA. They finish the year. They don't play Ohio State or Oregon.
Oh.
USC does not play Ohio State or Oregon. They already beat LSU. They have a road game against the ranked Michigan. They play Wisconsin at home. Which Wisconsin, no Van Dyke anymore.
True.
At Minnesota might be tricky. Penn State at home, definitely going to be a tough game. I don't know. So all that to say is the 2 losses that I see for Nebraska potentially at Ohio State, at USC on their schedule.
Okay.
Now, knowing Nebraska, they'll probably drop.
They'll drop 4
to Ohio State, and then probably 1 to like Indiana or some other team. But
could very well be.
they probably won't roll in 10-1, but if they do, that's great for Iowa because that would be a signature win for Iowa. If Iowa's 9-2, Nebraska's 10-1, that is for all the marbles.
Payback's a motherfucker.
Yes, it is. It sure is. So, man, there's a lot to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
There's a lot. One last, do you have anything else football-wise that you wanted to bring up before I transition real quick? One last quick note.
I don't think so, man. Like I'm not, like I said, my worry meter's at a 3, just simply because it's a rivalry game. I think we have the best players on the field. We have a better coach. I think we're set up better for success. We rebounded well against Troy, especially the second half. I'm not panicking.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think there's a lot of reason for optimism. I know 2-1 isn't what maybe we wanted, but again, I think Iowa can pull this out this weekend. So looking forward to it. You want to come back with the post game?
I don't see why not. I'll be available Saturday night, as a matter of fact. So
it'll be a late one for you.
That's okay.
For the night game, but we'll be back on Saturday night. One last note here. Wanted to shout out the men's basketball team for landing a pretty big commitment in 2026. Navon Shabazz from Davenport, I believe. So that was good. Good little combo guard there, 6'4" combo guard. So pretty big recruiting win for Iowa there, as I know Iowa State was really in on Shabazz as well. So Fran went head-to-head with TJ for an in-state and won.
Shout out to Connor McCaffrey. Shout out to Connor McCaffrey job at Butler.
Hey, I'm glad you brought that up. I almost forgot about that, but Connor is on a path to becoming a head coach at some point.
Think so.
Not at Iowa, by the way. I don't think he'll ever be coming back to coach at Iowa. I just think it's.
No, I think he's right where he needs to be in Butler.
I think he's right where he needs to be too. Who knows? He may want to. He might have aspirations to get to the NBA level someday. I could definitely see that. Could see him wanting to be an NBA coach.
Yeah.
And doing it. So, but I could also see him being a really successful college coach too. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too terribly surprised if we see Connor McCaffrey end up being a head basketball coach at the Division I level.
For sure.
In a power, what we would consider a power conference.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? Because like we call like football Power 4, but we call basketball Power 6 because we include the Big East.
It's just a different animal. It's just a different animal.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, any other stuff you got?
I don't think so, brother. It's it's Hawk's Eye View after dark here. It's 11:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, daylight time still here in about 6 weeks or so. Gonna lose it, but yeah, about 6 weeks I'll be home for my wedding. So that's what's up.
Great. So we're both locked in for the same score, 17-13.
17-13. That's a lock.
Okay. Wow. Lock it in.
Yep.
17-13 Iowa. I think that means Iowa covers.
I think I'm gonna put $1 on the exacta score on that just for shits and giggles.
Do it. Do $1 on
it's gonna
that.
It's gonna be like plus 20,000 or something.
Yeah, it'll be like a plus 2,500, something like that.
Yeah. It'll be great.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, we will be back on Saturday night, hopefully doing a little victory dance and enjoying getting the Floyd and Rosedale back. So thanks for joining us. As always, go Hawks.
All right.